Aloha! Welcome to another episode of Think Tech Hawaii's Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I am your host, Carl Campagna. Many people believe that education can be the silver bullet or the linchpin that can help solve problems like homelessness, drug addiction, social division, and income inequality. And in Hawaii, of all places, where our many intertwined cultures all cherish our keiki and do all we can to open doors for their successes, would we not assume that a high priority is placed on having a world-class educational system? On this show, we talk about the programs available to our keiki, the quality of our facilities and infrastructure, addressing deferred maintenance, increasing the number of cool rooms for our keiki and teachers, a more comprehensive curriculum approach, as well as appropriately recognizing and valuing our teachers and administrative staff. And perhaps most importantly, what life and career opportunities are we providing for our keiki to thrive today and tomorrow? Today we have a very special guest, current teacher in Kumu Hina, as well as one of the most inspirational and motivational speakers I know. It is my deep honor to introduce Ms. Hina Wong-Kalu, still affectionately referred to as Kumu Hina. Welcome to the show.
Mahalo.
Aloha.
Thank you for having me on the show.
So happy to have you. I know we had an opportunity to talk a couple months ago, League of Women Voters on the Olelo show, and I enjoyed that conversation. We're not going to have the same conversation, just so you know. It's going to be different.
No problem.
But I'm happy to have you back and happy to talk again.
Yes, thank you.
So one thing, you've been a teacher, you are a teacher. What I just learned, I was very happy to learn that you're teaching again. Tell me, first of all, what inspires you and motivates you to teach?
Truth be told, when I was approached years ago, I would say just beyond 13, maybe going on 14 years now, I was approached by our former director and founder of Hinaleimoana Public Charter School. And she continued to pursue me for several months, along with the help of some other friends, and they said, "You'd be great, come. And I said, "I don't want to be a teacher." However, I had already been doing teaching assistant work. I had got into assisting my former kumu at Kamehameha after I graduated. So it really wasn't necessarily something I wasn't doing, but I just said, I didn't want to teach K through 12. I didn't think I was going to be good at it. And what I found was that I had to rely on being raised by my grandparents and utilizing the heart that they had for me. That was what allowed me to find at least some level of success in working with my students, is that you must have patience and love above and beyond anything that your students, regardless of age, will come with. And it could come with a lot of great things, it could come with a lot of bad things, but you have to accept and love them and embrace them above and beyond what you think your tolerance would be.
And that actually is true, I think, across the board for parents, for community members, for for everyone. And again, yes, it isn't just tolerance for them coming in a bad mood. It isn't just tolerance for their teenage years now. So now that's a different issue. It's tolerance across the board, right?
Well, and even beyond tolerance, a level of acceptance.
Yes.
You must accept them as they are, because many of them, myself included, we are all products of our environment, our upbringing, and for me, my epiphany in teaching K through 12 is that you must love the children as if you would love your own. If you cannot love them as if you would love your very own, your blood, then the kids will know it.
Yeah, and they absolutely do. And you can tell that in the classrooms. One of the challenges when you look at our classrooms and classroom size, when there are 30, 35 kids in a classroom and one teacher, even with the teacher's assistant, it's hard to keep them all engaged, right?
Yes, yes it is.
So what are, just let's work on that for a moment. What are some of the things that you've done to try to keep that many students?
Well, for me, 30, 35, 40 is a small number. I'm accustomed to working with 60 to 150 kids at one time.
Wow.
You must have a good command of your classroom space. Even if it's the largest space, you have to let the kids on every corner, in the back, in the middle, you have to let them know that you're paying attention to them. You have to remind them that, you know, you can see them, you can hear them, and although there's a lot of them, you have to be able to say to them that each and every one of them is a part of the larger treasure chest.
Yes.
Of valuables and trinkets. Each one may be different, but each one's shiny in its own way.
Absolutely. And with that comes each one learning differently.
Each one learning differently, and it's okay.
Yeah.
They should not be expected to conform to everything that I need. However, I did expect my students to try their best and work with me. That's what I expected out of them.
Yes. Effort.
Effort. Give
That's
me
right.
effort. Whether you make it or not, it's okay. Show me effort.
Yeah. That's what I tell my kids. I'm not worried about your grade. Don't come home and show me your grade. I want to see your effort, and your grade will reflect that.
Yes, and communicate. And when you're having a difficult time, or when something else is bothering you, don't hesitate to communicate. And there was a policy in my class. If you needed to go, if you weren't having a good day, come and tell me. Kumu, I just can't deal with it. If it got to be repeat and a little too consistent, then I'd have to address it. But if not, there was an understanding that my students could excuse themselves.
Yeah.
And don't go out of my sight, just move out of the teaching
It's okay to take a break.
arena.
Yeah.
Stay someplace where I can see you, go sit in the corner, go in the
Yeah.
back, or do something.
Yeah. But sometimes then you need the other side. You need to say, hey,
Right,
time to stand up.
right,
Right? So you
Right.
got to be able to do both.
right. And you have to be able to look across the room and say, you okay? You ready? Come back.
That's been one of the common themes. I'm very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to do this show. But guest after guest that I've had since January, the common themes are communication, connection with the child, being able to
Yes.
communicate as effectively as possible with that child
Yes.
to help them. And in many cases, it's not easy. One of the biggest challenges that we hear time and time again is the socio-economic challenges. And it's not about how many dollars per pupil. It's not about how much money the school gets. It's about the socioeconomic qualities of that community
Yes.
and the cultural aspects that come into the classroom from that community. I would like to hear if some, I don't know, I try to
You
ask.
can ask me anything you want.
Okay. Well, no, I would like to hear your experience in that regard, as you have multiple kids coming into your classroom, as many as 60, and you've got
100,
different backgrounds,
120, 150.
with all different backgrounds.
Mhm.
Some more affluent than others. Some English is their second language. Yeah.
Few.
How those are challenges in the classroom. And again, one of the other themes we hear as we talk over and over and over again is coming into that classroom, they're coming into that classroom to learn, and it's the teacher's responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's a huge responsibility. You have to be able to identify and notice and recognize so many different things. And we need to treat the teachers as the professionals they are because of that, and we need to recognize that need. But my question is, as you have seen this cross-section of our communities come into your classes, how has that impacted your class? What has been your experience with the socioeconomic differences and divisions that have existed? That's a good start, anyway.
For us, we didn't have the widely diverse socioeconomic divisions as in some other schools.
Okay.
Majority of our students were from modest homes, to say the least. A few experienced houselessness.
Yes.
We did have just the handful over the course of the 13 years that they lived in nice homes. They were not necessarily affluent, but they didn't struggle. But what we did have in the case of our school was that it was a culturally focused, culturally grounded, and culturally based school, so that the teachings would reflect the culture that is being shared with them in an effort to imbue them with the skills, the philosophy, the understanding, and the lens, if you will, just as you or anyone else might be wearing a pair of glasses, to look at life, approach life situations, and to analyze, assess, and evaluate whatever it is they do in the classroom, or extracurricular, or in their personal lives. That was key. And it required them to always tap back into what were they learning and what culture were they coming from, regardless of being ethnically Hawaiian.
That's interesting. That's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was very happy to have Ms. Kawi Sang.
Yes.
And she came on and we talked about immersion schools, and we talked about the Kupuna program. My mother-in-law teaches Hawaiian studies at Jefferson Elementary, and I've had a number of really good conversations with her as well. And what I find interesting is there seems to, the difference. I mean, all teachers have this huge responsibility. We had, in past weeks, we had Hawaii Meth Project here. We had Epilepsy Foundation of Hawaii here, talking about all these different issues and challenges academically, and again, the responsibility placed on the teacher. Are they able to identify any one of these situations and conditions? And we, as parents, without really thinking about it, place that responsibility on the teacher. Why didn't you tell me? Why is it that his test scores are down and you didn't tell me he was having this issue or that issue, or you had other classmates that were having these issues that are impacting my child? And we place it at the foot of the teacher. And immediately, my first reaction is, well, that is a lot. That is a lot for the amount of money these teachers get paid. That is a lot of responsibility. We know, and has been said, our kids spend more time in the classrooms than they do at home, Monday through Friday. So the most important people outside of family are the teachers. So I like to make sure that we respect our teachers that way because of that. So okay, let me go a little different. As was just explained to me, we should probably go to a commercial break at the moment. So let me take a quick break. Again, this is Think Tech Hawaii's Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna. We have an amazing guest, Miss Kumu Hina Wong, sorry. We'll be back in 1 minute. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on Think Tech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
Aloha, welcome back to Think Tech Hawaii's Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna, and we have Kumu Hina Wong with us. Okay, so let's jump back in a little bit. What I want to do now, actually, we talked about some good stuff there, and off air you were mentioning an important comment. I want to get back to that. But I would like this segment, I would like to talk about your movies.
Mm.
I would like to talk about Kumu Hina, and I would like to talk about A Place in the Middle. Okay, so first of all, Kumu Hina, set it up for us. Just what is it?
The Kumu Hina film is a documentary that walks next to me, behind me, and around me. And it is a project that followed me for about 2.5 years. And at the request of my now two very dear friends, Dean Hamer and Joe Wilson, they are the producers of the film. They provided many different opportunities for me to achieve things not only within my personal life, but also as it contributed to the film. But they helped to bring to the public view just one story that they may not have otherwise gotten. And one element of the story that is Kumu Hina is my life, my personal life, my marriage. It also talks about and illustrates my work with some of my students, and it also puts up on the table my work in the community as the current, as of this date, still current chairperson for the Oahu Island Borough Council. The Place in the Middle film is essentially taking some of the footage that was a part of the larger documentary, and it became its own little documentary that was presented from the perspective of my student. And she was the focus of being a student and being in the middle. There was nothing, at least on my effort, to try to identify her within the LGBT realm, because that is not for a teacher to determine. If a student determines that that is their course of the road, that's their decision, that's their choice, and it's up to me as her teacher to be prepared to embrace whatever she's going to tell me. Right. The focus of A Place in the Middle is simply to say to anybody who views it is that from the Hawaiian cultural lens, we have an understanding of not only the physical, but the emotional, the spiritual, and the mental elements of who we are. And my student, who is depicted in A Place in the Middle, had elements of both at many different levels and many different turns. So it was really an opportunity to say, it's okay, be yourself. Yeah. And it really placed the onus of teacher responsibility on me to embrace my student, regardless of whatever she may encounter, whatever she may think or feel, but to look at her for her ability to provide a deliverable, classroom deliverable. That's basically it.
Yeah, which is a huge skill in life.
Yes.
So that's, this gets into the inspirational part and the motivational part. Watching these films, and for me especially, A Place in the Middle, the emotion that is evoked just out of watching it, you can see and you can feel, it's palpable what's going on in that, and it's such an important piece to be able to make sure that that gets out. There are now, okay, so it's Kumu Hina movie, A Place in the Middle movie. Are there websites?
Yes.
What are the websites?
Kumuhina.com.
Kumuhina.com.
Yes.
And you can get both of them?
You can go to iTunes and you can download the Kumu Hina movie.
Excellent.
It's about 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
You can check us out on Facebook. I also know that we have an Instagram page, Kumu Hina. Both are maintained largely in part on the effort of Joe Wilson, although I do check from time to time. He better, at least fields different people's comments, requests, and thoughts, forwards them to me. But A Place in the Middle, all you have to do is look up A Place in the Middle as well when you do your engine search, and you'll find it easily.
And it's really easily. You literally Google Kumu Hina, and it all comes up. That's all you have to do. Really, you can find it all there. And I recommend that you definitely watch it. Yes.
The Place in the Middle film has also been on a teaching campaign to go around to different public schools, public libraries, and whatever community venue that will be inviting and welcoming of us to share the story. in an effort to not only elevate awareness, but to increase the capacity of our own communities
Yes.
to consider the benefits and the fantastic opportunity of empowerment for our youth
Yes.
by being open to what the film is saying.
Yes. Open. That's where you get back to it.
Yes.
Not being tolerant, but being
Yes.
accepting
Being
of.
accepting.
And that's
Yes.
huge. That's, again,
Yes.
looking at the themes as we talk about over the weeks from this show, that's a huge theme. Being aware, being accepting. But that awareness piece is for the teachers. And again, another
Yes.
thing for the teachers to be aware of and try to
Yes.
be able to manage a classroom based on. But
Yes.
then also the awareness for the students
Mhm.
at various ages. And of course, some people are going to have a problem. I don't want my kindergartner to be aware of too much too soon. Okay, when? That's a good topic to talk about. When is a good time? All times you need to make sure that you are available to them.
In my classroom, there was never a when is a good time. Now, obviously, I'm not going to talk about things that, for example, are much more adult. When you talk about the level of relationship that one needs to be in to have more children, and when you talk about those kinds of things, you wait a little while until you see that the students are not only very aware of themselves, but able to have a mature discussion.
Yeah.
And it's up to the individual student. Some students at the intermediate level, depending on their upbringing, are ready. Some are not.
Some
You know?
have had unfortunate situations
Yes.
that have led them to be
Yes.
more aware
Yes.
sooner than they should have.
Mhm.
But then we still need to be able to be there for them.
What was key for me was that in my classroom, especially because the older students, once you got into the middle or the high school, they knew that their teacher was a unique teacher. And I did not have to hide, the element of Mahu or the element of transgender to them, because it's what enabled me to reach them even more.
Yeah.
Be myself, they'll be themselves. And I don't have to try to be anything else but myself.
Nor should you have to.
Right.
Nor should you have to. And I think that's the example. The
Right.
example is, yes, that's a part of who I am.
Yes.
That's not all.
Right.
That's a part of who I am.
Right.
And I'm going about my normal, natural, regular life.
The students that I worked with, even the most hardcore students, you had your set of young men in school. They all knew, that, especially the high school ones, the ones who were the most hard-headed, the ones who stereotypically would be sent out of the classroom all the time. They were some of the very ones, many of the high school girls as well. If they don't say Kumu Hina, they'll say auntie, or they'll say mom. I had a few that said mom. For them to understand even the little bits and pieces of my life, but to accept me and embrace me as I am, it said to them that I was accepting of them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't judging them for anything else except for what I was trying to teach them.
Yes.
And I always reminded them that they possess the capacity for greatness. If they do not believe that they possess the capacity for greatness, that was on them. But I believed that they possessed that.
Yes.
And that they just have to figure out where they are on the road of their progress, how fast or how slow they were going to be getting to their great place.
Right, right. I tell my kids in a much simpler way, I say, well, there are going to be so many people that you will encounter in your life who will try to limit you. Don't be one of them.
Yes. Yes.
And they don't like to hear that because
Yes.
that means I'm expecting them to do something.
Yes. Well, I would tell my students, I will start you off here. I'll
Yes.
keep you there. If anyone removes yourself from here, it's going to be you, not me. You'll demote yourself,
Yeah.
and you're going to figure out how far down you're going to demote yourself, but I'll keep you up there.
Yeah.
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 If you demonstrate to me that you have heart and spirit and the willingness to try,
Yeah.
you'll be up here.
Yeah, and that's excellent. That's the focus. That's the inspiration. That's the finding it within yourself.
Yeah.
The reason you're going to
Yes.
excel or try,
Yes.
or just try hard anyway.
Well,
So yeah.
And then one has to be able to say to them, as I told them many times, I don't need perfect. I don't even need you necessarily to hit all the goals that I have for you. I need you to demonstrate to yourself that you will put the effort out to get there.
Yeah. Right.
Getting there, some of you may not get there at all. Some of you may not get there 2 years later. But it's knowing the feeling of how to work towards getting there.
That's its own self-discovery.
Yes.
And that's the point of education
Yeah.
is not that I'm going to memorize all these little numbers and all these little words, but I'm going through the process
Yeah.
of trying and the opening up of your brain and opening up of your heart along the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So no, I revere teachers, and I think that the teaching profession needs to be recognized as just that, a profession. And I think that too often they're looked at as servants, not as professionals who provide a service that we so desperately need.
Well, there's also the part of the Hawaiian view to that is that you become my child once you come into my classroom.
Yeah.
And I become your makua. You are my keiki, I am your makua. And just as much as your own parents influence you and your families and your environment, I too will influence you.
Yeah.
And one has to look at one's children and see what makes them special and unique and allow them to be that.
Yeah.
But what I did find is that sometimes both parents and teachers, if we have our own issues and if we have our own hang-ups, our own vices, and our own insecurities, when we impose that upon the kids, that's when we run into issues.
Yes. And that's coming from the previous segment as we were
Yes.
talking about the socioeconomic and cultural aspects that the kids carry with them into the classroom. And then how to help them, because many times, I'm a foster parent. I see some of these kids come through and I see where they come from as far as their approach to school or their approach to just I'm at home and what I'm going to do when I'm here. And there are differences. And one of the things we've been able to see is just because they've spent a month or 2 or 3 months in our house sometimes, and they see, well, what my wife does and that she's a boss, sometimes that is an important thing, that there's a woman over there who's a boss. And wow, and she's a mom. And good for her. And that I'm the dad, but you know what? I don't have a ranking above my wife. We handle things as a team. We're equal. She's the boss sometimes. I take her direction other times.
That's fair.
And that's just, but that in itself has brought about some of those children that have come in at 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. They ask us, so really? They ask my wife, really, you're the boss? How did that happen? Really? That's possible. And that in itself is important. The ability to reach a child and have them see that there's more than what they have otherwise seen. That not to put a judgment on a culture, certainly not. Sometimes it's the socioeconomic aspect of it that is causing some sort of a short-sightedness, perhaps, or a lack of really long vision. But seeing it, that's possible. So that's key for me.
Yes.
We're gonna take another quick break.
Okay.
And then we're gonna come back and there's another topic that we're gonna talk about, and I greatly appreciate it. So again, thank you again. This is Think Tech Hawaii's Movers, Shakers, and Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. And I'm your host, Carl Campagna, with our guest, Miss Kumu Hina Wong. See you in a minute.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute, and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right, and what's good, and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to Think Tech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the Think Tech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Aloha, welcome back to Think Tech Hawaii's Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm Carl Campagna, your host. We have our special guest today, Miss Kumu Hina Wong-Kalu. Wanted to make sure to do proper respect there. Okay, so a couple things. One important thing, as you were just mentioning, we need to make it clear. You are a teacher, and you are a teacher currently.
Yes.
we're going to jump back to exactly what you're teaching at the moment, but I want to start with, you were a teacher. When did you first become a teacher? They were chasing you down and they were twisting your arm until they finally got you in. When was that?
Well, if you really take it further back, I was groomed to eventually take leadership in school, in high school.
Yes.
I graduated and I became assistant to my former Kumu for a couple of years. And I also did teaching assistant work at the university. After I finished at the university, I got into community level teaching and then ended up doing social work, case management, and outreach work within the community for a couple of years before going into full-time K through 12 teaching in 2001.
2001.
Yes.
Okay. And you taught K through 12. Was there a specific grade, or were you literally all over the place? What was it? What grade did you primarily work in, or what?
I was responsible to teach all of the different grade levels,
Okay.
bring culture to them, primarily through the use of hula, chant, Hawaiian language, not necessarily in your stereotypical let's learn language, but language through a natural process of acquisition.
Yeah.
And also incorporated in this is the cultural philosophy, history, and understandings that come with presenting any kind of body of knowledge to the students. And so it's clearly demonstrated in the Kumu Hina film that those are some of the things that I taught my students. And most of all, the important life lessons that they needed to deal with themselves, not only while they were in school, but help hopefully prepare them for being out of school. And I used to tell my students, because I was volunteering within the incarceration system at the time, I said, please don't come visit me. You know, I'm there. And now that I am actually teaching, right now in OCCC, and I'll soon expand to Halava prison, I've had a couple of students, former students.
So that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. But.
And they see you.
Yes.
And
But they know
yeah.
I'll still love them.
Yeah.
I will still accept them. I'll look at them, raise an eyebrow. And just say, well, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And if you're expecting to be here, then you already know what my expectation of you is. Don't bat an eyelash.
That's right. That's right.
Be ready.
Expect it. Here it comes.
Expect it. Here it comes. In fact, because you're older now, it gets harder.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So, okay, teaching again. So 2001 is when you first started doing K through 12. That, there was an end to that.
Yes.
When was that? And can you tell us a little bit about that ending, for that moment? It was a momentary ending.
Towards the end of 2014, end of November, I decided to depart from the school because I did not agree with what was going on with the attempt to not only restructure but reorganize and realign the school according to the dictates of the Hawaii State Charter School Commission. I did not agree with the commission. I did not agree with their executive director. I did not agree with primarily how they handled the situation. Not with what was done, but how it was handled. I felt that it was the equivalent of me coming to Carl's house and saying, oh, that's what's going on in your house? Okay, well, this is what you're gonna do. And then tell you to execute in the way that I feel and the way that I see is right. But that's not how we would do it, and I don't think anyone out there in the viewer audience, would be happy if I came, told you what to do in your house.
Yeah.
Neither would you come to tell me what I do in my house. The way our charter school worked was we were not only a school, but we were a family because, again, from that cultural perspective, the children become our children. We become their parents. Our school was very family, and in many of the charter schools, the people who start these schools don't have anybody else but family and friends to rely on to forward the momentum of our labor and our effort. So despite the many criticisms from the community, we were much like a mom and pop store. A little mom and pop store, a family owned business, family run, family maintained. It's not uncommon to see brother, sister, auntie, uncle, whomever, grandparents coming to contribute to the business. And that's exactly how we were run.
Yeah.
But again, the Charter School Commission felt that their directives was the best case scenario for us, and I didn't agree with it. So on top of the fact that the school, had some financial issues, that's part of what they were trying to address.
Sure.
But I said, no. However long the school is going to go on, if it finds success, then you will take me off the payroll. If I can find my income elsewhere and I can still donate my time to the school, then I will. But you can take me off payroll November. So essentially I left.
Is it the same commission today as it was then? Do you know?
Yes, their executive director has left.
Okay.
But as I expected, because many of our local people have a razor edge when it comes to looking at people who come from the outside, people who are foreigners coming to Hawaii to say what to do and how to do it and why. And I know a lot of great foreigners, non-Hawaiians, that have contributed greatly to the Hawaiian community. But in this case, as I predicted, foreigner would come, say what to do, and then dig.
Yeah.
So, with that said, our perspective really wasn't heard on the news. So thank you for allowing me to say this
appreciate that.
on TV. But, I reflect on what I've gained in the 13 years, and I can't help but think about one experience that was not a lone experience, but it stands out in my head. And that was that a parent came and told me that they didn't want me to be their son's teacher. And, his words to my boss, and I was standing there, he said, well, I don't know if I like I don't know if I like this one. He said, this one, and kind of gestured to me like that. And I don't know if I like this one to be my son's teacher. So my boss immediately says, oh no, we love Kumu Hina. She's just great. The kids love her. And that was the end of the story. But immediately through my mind, I said, you will evaluate me on the basis of what I'm able to bring your students and my level of efficacy with the students, the level of deliverable that they will put out. If you have anything else to say about my personal life or what you think you see, you are not my student, you are not my boss, and you have no say whatsoever.
You are also not my judge.
Yes, you are not my judge. But that was only one example of several other parents who thought that they could either judge me or put me in a position where they would compromise my integrity.
So it wasn't about the classwork.
No, it
was
wasn't.
not about the class. And they could point to no reason other than a prejudice, really.
The prejudice, but I was not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well, good. And
Unless
nor
you
should
can do what I can do, move out of the way.
That's right. That's
Period.
right. Exactly, and that's how that should be.
Yes.
That's how that should be,
Mhm.
and I thank you for that
Yes.
also. So okay, so tell us. So I think it's great that you are teaching at OCCC.
Yes.
What do you do in there, and how does that work?
I'm currently working on a program called Kumu Hina, and this, again, takes the concept of the lens of Hawaiian understanding and helping to say here to my students. It is currently a Title I class, so meaning there's a target for youth and some expectations, some objectives for the class. But it is open to all who would like to attend. I get anywhere from 30 to 40 men. I've had a couple of transgender in there as well. And it's been pretty good. You know, I not pretty good, but I found that it's been very rewarding for me, because these adults now, in there for whatever crime that got them there, are the same as my K through 12. They're just older. Same technique, same same kind of strategy. You just have to modify a little bit, but essentially the same.
Good.
If
Yeah.
you have to love them above and beyond now what they've done.
It's because none of us give up our 12-year-old.
Yes.
We all have that
Yes.
12-year-old inside of us still.
Yes.
It's just how much we listen to
Yes.
that 12-year-old,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Some of us more than others. So unfortunately, we have to end the show. Unfortunately, I think we could have another hour worth of conversation on
Yes.
a number of topics. So I'm very happy that you're teaching there, and congratulations on
Mahalo.
the advancement over it also to Halava. So
And I'll be working with the court soon too.
oh, see, excellent. See, and I want to hear more about all that. So we're going to have you come back
Yes,
again
thank you.
to tell us more about what that is and how that's going to work. So thank you again so much. Truly appreciate the
Mahalo.
opportunity to
Thank you.
talk and to learn from you. And again, thank you for joining us, once again for joining us. This is Think Tech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna, with our guest today, Kumu Hina Wong-Kalu. We hope that you will join us next week when we have Mr. John Bickle, who is going to talk with us about education in private schools and a range of other topics. He's going to be a great guest as well. He can be a host all by himself. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Mahalo.